Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blazing bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, hit you while I'm there. Idle champions, you will set again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icewind Dale, head out to Chull or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, hit you while I'm dead. Idle champions, you will set again. Idle champions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. At some point, my game will join us for this stream, but, you know, Streamlabs sometimes. Hey, there it is. Welcome. It is, if you're watching this live, it is Saturday morning-ish, early enough for me to call it morning. And we are doing Gaarawarr's Guide to Feats today. There's an A in there, just like with Trevor. So we're going to cover kind of like what are feats, how do you get them, where do you put them, you know, that kind of stuff. I think the tweet was like, hey, find out which feats are the best for each champion. There's 82 champions in the game right now, folks. If you tuned in to hear me go over what I think are the best feats for each of the 82 champions, you're probably going to be a little disappointed. There's not enough time for that. Even if I talk really fast. So we're going to talk just kind of systematically about feats and how you can easily figure out which are the best feats for each champion, and why you should use some of them and when. I think we got a code today. This is how you do the code. For anyone who wants to know how you do the code. Nope, that's not it. That wasn't the code. Here. This is the code. That's the code. That copy paste was from the guide to feats I just posted on the subreddit. So if you want a textualized version of what we're talking about today, you can now find that on the subreddit wiki page with all my resources on it. Yeah, and I actually closed that, and now I want to open it back up, just so I make sure we're going over all the topics. For those of you who haven't been to a Saturday show before, the way this works is the very first hour is me talking about the subject, not necessarily addressing any questions from chat, but I'll get to those if you post them. Jay is in chat already on the CNE Games account, and they will pull questions and put them in a little document for me, and then I will read off that document after the first hour. After we take our break, We'll take a break about halfway through. And then the second half of the show, I will answer all your questions, starting off with stuff about anything you might ask about Feats. I'll try to address that. And then we'll go into just general Q&A. General Q&A. Wait, this isn't a 5-hour stream about Feats? No, folks. I did a 4-hour stream once, and by the end I barely had a voice. Barely had a voice. I'm sure you can imagine, considering how much we get into on these shows. So I think I'm gonna turn off the reset here, because I kind of just want us to stay. Yeah, it's fine if we talk about Feats when we have all of our champions out and leveled up to soft cap, so people can get an idea of what things are going to look like. So, away we go. First off, back in my day, when the game started out, there weren't any Feats at all. They kind of got introduced as a system to kind of give you... Well, first off, this is a D&D themed game. And when you level up your characters in Dungeons and Dragons, at certain levels, you might get the option to pick up a feat, which offers all kinds of different functionality for champions, or you might raise, the other option would be to get an ability score increase. So, get a little +1 to one of your ability scores, and we see that there are ability scores in idle champions. They're over here. Most of the time you kind of cruise along and not notice them, but then when you're trying to apply a buff or get into a variant or try to go work for a patron, then this might matter a little more. People might notice. There are other times too. So they tried to basically use this feat system to apply both of those things. So feats are going to be things that can kind of maybe hone your champion in on specific strategies, or they may also just be ability score increases. For the most part, +1. There's a +2 out there, because, exceptions to every rule. So this system got introduced basically to kind of apply another level of customization to your champions, because as we know, a lot of champions have different abilities. Sometimes those abilities are support style abilities, sometimes they're damage style abilities, sometimes it's healing, sometimes it's a buff. So you get to kind of dive in and specialize your champion for whatever you're doing in that adventure. Now, a lot of people just kind of try to come up with what's the best feat for in general and just leave them there. But keep in mind, you can hot swap feats at any time in adventure. So, if there's something if you're having a hard time in adventure, one of the things to do when you kind of are starting to beat your head against a wall is to go through and just review your feats. Make sure, am I using the most appropriate feat for this specific instance? And that can make a big difference. So let's take a look at some of the feats. Look at the Deacon. Deacon's got a couple feats. So first off, when you come to the feats tab, it's always going to be the last tab up here in the champ UI on the right. When you first get your champion, this little active feat area is going to be empty. In fact, this whole thing, when you first, if you're just level 1 for the first time playing the game, this whole page is going to be blank. It's going to be black, and there's going to be a get to level whatever to unlock feats. So every champion has a different kind of level that you have to upgrade them to just to enable feats for the first time. When we're talking about enabling feats, you don't have to do this on every adventure. Feats are something you unlock permanently, and so are feat slots. So this part up here with active feats, there are 2 active feat slots. So there's a first one and a second one. So when you first unlock, when you get to whatever that level is for the first time, and it's different for every single champion, then it unlocks feats as a system, but it also unlocks your first feat slot. And then on this second slot, it will say upgrade to level whatever. to unlock your second slot. And it's a much higher level. We're talking like very close to getting to the soft cap. So if you don't know what the soft cap is, it's this circle with a line through it down here. It's basically the point where there are no more upgrades left in your champion. It takes a lot of favor and upgrades and gold to get here. So it's not something you see right away. So this is basically a system of strength, minor bonuses of strength and customization that you're going to unlock over time. When you start off, I'm just gonna throw these in here. When you start off, you will have one feat slot available, and you will have two. It will, in the manner of Deacon, two feats available to you that you could use, and they're going to be these uncommon green feats. These come just free of charge. You get your green feats on your champion right away. Some champions will have two, some might have three. It really depends on that champion and what roles that they have available. Deacon, the minimum is going to be two. Some will have three, and that's like if they have three roles. Like if Deacon was tanking, support, and healing, you might have three green options, and one would apply to tanking, one would apply to support in general, and one would apply to healing. We'll get into the reason for that, but just know that you'll have either two or three available. And then what you do is you slot one. You just throw one in. You pick the one that's going to apply best to you. Like in this case, Deacon's got Selflessness, which is just to increase damage champs by 10%, and that's all champs. Or you can increase Troubadour Troop by 20%. So you could throw one of these in. Once you take them in, notice there's no way to remove them. So once they're in, they're in. I don't know why you'd ever want to not have feats in. I don't know that I've ever run into that instance yet, that it was necessary for you to not have any in. But, once they're in, they're in. You can swap them out with any others you've unlocked. So that's kind of feats, the system, and then feat slots. Currently, there's only two. Currently, people have asked, will we ever get a third feat slot? And and they've been vague. And go, that's a good question. Maybe that might be a thing we do in the future. So who knows? So we may get more. We may get the ability to do more in the future, but for right now, there's two. Once you've unlocked your first feat slot, so you've gotten to the level, basically you've upgraded to that level, and you've slotted your feat in. Even if you were to reset that adventure and start over level 1, your character, your champion, will then have that feat slot unlocked, and the feat will still be in it. So I just want to make that very clear. Once you've done this, it's done for good. You have got your feat slot unlocked. So this is why a lot of people, after they've gotten upgraded to their first slots for all their champions, when they can push deep enough and finally get to the point where they can start upgrading and unlocking their second, usually on that run they'll swap through like every single one of their champions. They'll put all their champions in on that run and try to get all of their second feat slots open, because once you unlock it once, it's there forever. So keep that in mind. When you get to the point where you're unlocking your second slot, start swapping through. At the end of that run, swap through all your champions. See if you can unlock all of them. You may not get them all, but you may get most of them, and that means you're going to get more power for future runs, which means you're probably a run or two away from getting all of your feat slots. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. How do you get the feats? I'm trying to go through my questions here to make sure we hit all the topics in order. So like I said before, you're going to get the green ones automatically. There's currently 3 rarities. There's the uncommon, the rare, and the epic. As we see, Deacon only has uncommon and rare. Some of these, it's not going to tell you where I got these from, unfortunately, but as you can see down here, some are available just as straight purchase by gems. So 12,500 gems for rare feats tends to be the norm. Most of the time you're going to see this. And then the others, which these two probably, come from gold chests. What kind of gold chests? Not Deacon gold chests, just regular gold chests. So all of these regular gold chests that you find, like that can be drop loot off things or that you buy from the store, but just regular gold chests for non-event champions. Feats are in these, and they're in nothing else. So this is another reason why when you stop after you're brand new and you stop opening and buying silver chests and you start buying gold chests, you're going to start getting feats out of gold chests. And you want to just kind of keep buying lots and lots and lots of gold chests, because not only do they give you epic gear, they're also going to give you feats for your champions. So until you get all of the gold chest feats, you kind of still want to keep buying gold chests for champions. There is another way to get feats. I should open this other page. Occasionally, there will be something in the store, like there will be a weekend, and instead of a golden epic here, you might see a skin, or you might see a feat for a champion. So there are feats that are available for cash. There are these kind of what they refer to as sweeteners to get you to buy chests for the weekend, but you also get this. Let's see if we go to packs. Are there any? Yeah, here we go. Here's the Icewind Dale Brunner skin pack. So if you buy, this is another way you can get it. There's packs that have feats. So you get this cool skin that with Brunner looking a little chilly. Whew, yeah, I'm cold just looking at it. But it'll also be a feat. And if you'll notice, this is an epic feat. And with a much higher bonus, right? So you can get feats through the cash store. One thing to keep in mind, CNE committed to this, and so far they've done a very good job. Occasional little blips and delays, but of making sure that they hold up to their commitment, that if they ever offer a feat for cash, it will be available in-game for gems as well. However, it's a much higher price. So you will see, like I said earlier, more often than not, you're going to see those gems, purchasable feats for 12,500 gems. But occasionally you'll see them for 50,000 gems. That's a lot of gems. Well, not as much when you get to endgame, but it's a lot of gems, and that's how you know if that feat is currently or was at some point a cash purchasable feat. So you can still unlock it in the game for gems, but you can also just pay the cash. One little thing to remember, just in case this happens to you, because it's happened to lots of people, if you buy it for gems, for 50,000 gems, but then later you're like, you do have some cash, or maybe this pack goes on sale, and you're like, you know what, I really want that skin and that potion of polish, and I want to support the game, I'm going to throw down some cash, and you buy this. You don't get 2 feats. What happens is they refund you those 50,000 gems. So they make sure that you're not spending and then just losing something by then buying cash. So that's pretty cool. If you just want to buy it with gems first and then later on you have some cash and you want to throw it at the game, you're going to get those 50,000 gems back. So that's awesome. And I totally lost my train of thought. Saturdays, folks. Saturdays. So that's why sometimes you will see gem feats that are super expensive. Let me see if we can find off the top of my head. I mean, I guess that Brunner one here. Let's just go back to that Brunner one. It'll show you. Bam, right down here. See, 50,000 gems. So locked feats, King of Mithra Hall. Yeah. So what you're going to look for, as you can see, I do have one of them. What you're going to look for when you're looking at the types of feats, because there are a large variety of feats. There's, in general, a few different kinds. I think 3. You're going to see, as I kind of already discussed, there's kind of role-specific ones. So tanking, support, healing. There's certain general role-specific feats. We're also going to see ability-specific ones, which are much more champion-specific. So champions are going to have certain abilities, and they're going to have feats that boost those abilities, as we just saw there with Brunner. And then you're going to have those stat increases, which they kind of rolled into the feat system. And Brunner has all 3 of these. So if we look, Brunner is a support champion. Oh, but he's an exception to the rule. Maybe I should talk about somebody else. You should talk about somebody else. Here we go. Briv. Briv is a tanking healing support champion. Oh, this game has exceptions to everything. It has pretty solid rules for how everything kind of works, and then there's always exceptions. There's always exceptions. So, if we look at Briv, you're going to see he is tanking healing support champion. So he has 3 different roles, and that means he starts off with 3 different... well, he starts off with 3, and they're not necessarily all for these. This is kind of tanking. Why am I picking like the worst examples? Here, tanking support. This is fantastic. And this is a champion still with an exception. The game's got so many exceptions. Okay, so support roles, what you're going to see is you're going to see these selflessness feats, which is these increased damage of all champions. So support champions are going to have, anyone with a support tag is going to have an increased damage all champions. They're most likely also going to have a rare feat, so the blue feat, that's Inspiring Leader, which is increase all damage by 25%. These are kind of the generic support feats. So just for that role, support role. Tanking gets two different types of feats. Tanking gets tough and defensive duelist. These are health and overwhelm, as we talked about last weekend in Gaarawarr's Guide to Tanking, which you could find in the VODs. The health feat, basically, there's always going to be a well, not always. There could be a uncommon and rare, and that's going to be 15% and 30% health. Defensive duelist is going to raise your overwhelm, and you're going to either see a 5% or a 10%. You'll notice we don't see the 10% here anywhere, so she doesn't actually get that 10% bonus. She's only going to get a 5% bonus. So this is how, in some cases, each champion, while they might have health and overwhelm, they might not have the higher level versions, but they're at least going to get some version of it so that it applies to them. And that is for the tanking role. Everything else we're going to see on Gaarawarr is going to be either a stat feat or specific to her abilities. So right here, Gaarawarr's kind of one of her core abilities is Leadership Summit, so she gets a feat for Leadership Summit. She doesn't get a low-level version of this feat. She only gets the 40%. Sometimes you'll see like a 20%, sometimes and then there's a 40, and then if there's an epic, then usually it's like an 80% in terms of abilities. And then Gaarawarr is the exception in terms of stat feats, of course. So usually here's the stat feat. Vajra Summons increases her Constitution score of Gaarawarr by 1, but she also gets Connoisseur Fancy Things. These are named specifically, as far as I know, for her. So increases the Charisma score of Gaarawarr by 2. This was the first ever +2 feat. And as you can see, it was an epic, which means it came from a weekend deal. It was one of the sweeteners on a weekend deal. So this unlocks the ability potentially in the future for us to see more +2 feats introduced to champions, but currently this is the only one. Now, with these, specifically for Gaarawarr, these help Gaarawarr qualify for certain things like patrons, or in this case, like it's literally called Vajra Summon because this gives her enough Constitution for her to qualify for Vajra as a patron. So that's why you'll see these slotted in. Like I was using her in a patron variant, and then I just wanted lots of damage because I had her as support, and I wasn't really worried about her needing her to stay alive, so I slotted the damage slot. Now, if I were using her to tank and we were having a hard time and I needed more health, then I could have gone with the 30% health, right? This is how you kind of optimize for the situation you are in. Just remember, again, like if I were not in that specific patron variant, but I were using her, I would want to get rid of this charisma bonus and put in something that was more specific to what was going on, like Leadership Summit, right? And Bruno, we'll go back and we'll talk about how Bruner's an exception. So Bruner does get his selflessness as a support, but Bruner also has a defensive duelist one. This is, again, exception. This is one of those exceptions. Bruner is, as we talked about last week, kind of a bruiser. He's not a regular squishy, and he's not a tank. He's somewhere in between. He's got a little more health starting off than a regular tank, and he gets access to this overwhelm feat, so that you can take his overwhelm up to 10 instead of 5, which means occasionally you might be able to throw him into a front line and let him take a little bit of damage, but that's not really his role. His role is support. But they gave him a feat for that. Because, hey, let's give exceptions right away. And then, as you can see, he gets upgraded for increased damage all champs. And then we go into Rally, which is his main ability, and they give you multiple different ways to buff it. But then this other one that's from the store, Dwarven Glory, is another one of his abilities. So they're going to give you an upgrade for that. And then he has a lot of stat feats, folks. Just a lot. Now, some of these are useful and some of them are not. This is one thing you have to keep in mind. Is certainly with currently with stats upgrades, the +1s. What they tried to do, it feels like for the most part, was they tried to target things that are going to get you access to buffs from some people. So Observant, which ups his wisdom score by 1, makes him eligible when slotted, as we're doing here, for Narak's Gifts or I Focus. Charisma +1. I don't really remember off the top of my head what that one does or what the Strake one does, because those just aren't things that I think about. And you know what? There may not be anything that they do, or they might qualify you for a buff, or they might qualify you for a variant. The problem is there's almost 200. Well, there's at least there's far over 200 variants total in the game if you include event variants. But just in the main campaigns, there's almost 200 variants now. And some of them are stat-based, and these might be limiters for that situation. Or they might get you into a patron. But those are the things that you're looking for the most part. Qualify a character for a buff, qualify them for a variant, or qualify them for a patron. Now, for the variants and the patrons, sometimes there's currently a bit of a bug, and just so you know the workaround, sometimes you'll slot the feat and it still says that they're not eligible. Restart your client, come back in, and it should then trigger that eligibility, and then you can use them. Alternately, if you have a second adventuring party, swap to your second adventuring party, then swap back, and that might trigger it. So just use one of those workarounds if you're trying to slot a feat and get somebody activated for what you're trying to do, and you know that qualifies them. What other exceptions? Well, we'll go through some of these one by one in a bit, and we'll look at some of them specifically. But let's go. So back into ability specific. So we had support. Dinar is a healer, so let's look at his healing abilities. Sometimes you're going to see it like this, where it is medic and combat healer. These are the generic healing support. Or, well, healing feats. One's a 15%, one's a 30%. Again, exception to the rule. If we come back, is it Orkira? I think it's Orkira, yes. Orkira doesn't have medic and combat healer. Her healing bonuses are actually specific to her abilities, so they're kind of both healing and ability specific. It's odd, but what they really are is their ability specific bonuses instead of the healing bonuses. For whatever reason, instead of giving her the 15 and the 30%, they gave her a 20 and a 40%, so she actually gets the better end of the deal. I'm not going to blame that on Lauren being the community manager, but you know, I'm just going to say it. Love you, Lauren. But yeah, so she actually gets a little bit better of a healing in terms of feats, because she doesn't get the default healing feats. She gets ability-specific healing feats. This isn't something you're going to see a lot of. More often than not, for healers, you're going to see this. You're going to see the medic and the combat healer. But once again, just know exceptions to every rule. We already talked about the tanking. Let's talk about the DPS feats. DPS feats are going to be, generally speaking, Tavern Brawler, which is a 30% bonus. And then... Of course, I go to the DPS that doesn't have the 60% bonus. It's going to be whatever the other version, like, well, for her, it's Adept and Elementalist because she's a magic user. But just know there's usually a 30% and a 60%. Now, there are exceptions. Now, if you want to go up to this actually does have an epic. If we look at Caddy Bree's epic is 120%. So at each level up, it's doubling, 30%, 60%, 120%. And it does that with the other feats, 20%, 40%, and 80%, right? So if we ever see anything up above in terms of abilities, so 20% is going to be your green and uncommon. Blue rare is going to be 40%. Purple epic is going to be 80%. There have been rumors of gear potentially coming out in the future that's legendary. If they make legendary feats, then maybe that'll be something up above that too, right? The stat increases again, just 1 and 2. And then for role specific, just so I go over all the rest, what was I missing? Support, we did support, healing, DPS, taking. Oh, gold find. Gold find. I knew I was missing one. So let's go over to Jarlaxle. He's got all of them. So gold finds are 10, 25, and 50. And Jarlaxle has all 3 available. So the green is the 10, the blue is the 25, and the 50 is the purple. Now, of course, there are some champions whose gold find comes from an ability, in which case you'll see those as the normal ability modifiers. Let's see, who's that going to be under? It's going to be down here. I think Freely has yeah. So Freely gets both. Freely gets his 10 and his 25, but then he also has, and you can note, they're trying to give you clues as to what these are for, right? You get the big gold coin here. Fortuitous, this increases his requisition lucky break for 40%. That's the gold find version. So you know just by looking that this is going to be gold. This is going to be a gold feat, right? Anything with the sword is going to be like this, with the arrows all over the place, damage all champions. And then any of these are going to be the ability upgrades, specific just to a generic ability, right? So that is all the different types of feats currently in the game. There have been requests to the developers for other kinds of feats that might change them in different ways, and the developers have somewhat been open to the idea, but we haven't seen any in yet. What kind of things am I talking about? Well, just something that maybe changes your champion completely. I know one that gets asked for a lot is something that changes your alignment. Another one that gets asked for a lot is something that literally changes how an ability functions. So kind of like a specialization feat, because specializations can tend to change how something functions. We don't really have anything like that yet, but just know that, you know, things like that may be added in the future. You know, so if you're watching this in the future and there's stuff like that, hey, awesome. So the other question that tends to get asked more often than not is, so Gaarawarr, there's those 12,500 gem feats. There's the ones that come out of gold chests, and then there's these ones that are 50,000 gems. So how do I know when I'm supposed to be buying gold chests versus when I'm supposed to be just buying a feat straight up? So it kind of comes down to how you want to focus. Buying a 12.5, is there one here? Yes, buying a 12.5 gem feat straight off of a champion lets you pick where you're going to put your power. And this 12,500 gems is the same amount you'd be spending on average to try to get a feat, because feats drop out of regular gold chests at a rate of 1 in 25. That's the chance. However, there is no RNG protection, there's no bad luck protection, there's no pity timer. So you could go 100 chests, gold chests, and not see a single feat. It happens. So, and then when you're opening the gold chest, it's just going to go to a random champion that you don't have a feat for yet, like one of those gold chest feats. So there's a very wide pool of, especially early on, there's a very wide pool of champions whose feats are going to drop in out of those chests, and lots of different feats for each of those champion for gold chests. Whereas if you just want to spend the same amount of gold, but focus that, or same amount of gems, but focus that purchasing power onto a specific champion, you can. So if you're using Orkira all the time, and maybe you don't have some of these others, and you think that this 25% is going to be the best feat for you, then yeah, just drop those gems on it, because you're able to focus these gems on that specific champion. I would recommend not buying gem feats in general, though, until you are at least full blue on all of your core and evergreen champions, which happens pretty quickly. And you are in that very long-term hunt to get full epic across all of them. Because you really want that epic gear. Those are nice bonuses, and this bonus, remember, if you already have the 10% and then you have like something, say this 20%, your bonus, the amount you're getting here as a bonus isn't going to go up that much, right? Because you would swap this with, let's say if you were doing, if this was a 20%, you want some healing and you want some damage, your damage is only going to go up by 15%. And it would be nicer if you got, something else specifically, but, you're getting very small increments of bonus for the gems you're spending. So just keep that in mind. You don't necessarily want to do it super early. Early on, you're probably fine with whatever green feats you get, and then whatever comes naturally out of gold chests while you're hunting for epics. But at a certain point, if you're trying to optimize kind of your output, especially say to get past a very hard variant, and you're almost there. You're on the final boss, but you just need to eke out a little bit of something. Check and see if there's 12.5 gold feats available. Now the 50k gold feats, though, where were we with? Bruenor had one. Let me go back to Bruenor. The 50k gold feats, I mean, as you can see, I don't even have all the feats that are gem purchasable. And I have all full epic gear. I have all the stuff out of the gem store. Finally, just finally. And now I'm going to start going through and purchasing gem feats with my excess gems. So this isn't something you have to rush for. But just know that this is probably something you would 50,000 feats, unless it's a major, super important feat for a champion. That's going to do a lot of work for you. That's not something to rush towards. It's going to be very rare. I think, does Avern have, I think off the top of my head, Avern's got an 80 that's worth it. Yeah, I don't even have it. But yeah, two-headed coin, his mirror image 80. That's probably worth spending 50,000 gems on. Even kind of early on. Not early, but, you know, when you're at the point where you've got an extra 50k gems, that you're going to get a lot of power out of Avern's 80% mirror image. Especially because you can stack it with one of the other 40s, right? But for the most part, you kind of have to judge. You're going to need this is subjective. You're going to have to judge, like, am I using this champion a lot? And is this feat actually, like, boosting an ability that's super important for this champion? In the case of Avern, yes, this one is. In the case of Bruenor, no, this one isn't. Bruenor's Dwarven Glory, if we go take a look, I got to level him up a bit. It would probably help if I actually bought his abilities too. Bruenor's Dwarven Glory has to do with the number of dwarfs in a formation. So it increases his rally by each dwarf in the formation other than Bruenor. Much to my dwarfish chagrin, because I'm a big proponent of them adding enough dwarfs to run a full dwarf party. That's not really a thing anymore. Currently, you don't really try to focus and build put a lot of dwarfs in to try to take advantage of Bruenor's Dwarven Glory. That's just, unfortunately, that's not currently a thing. I would love for it to be. I've posted on the Reddit about that. You can go look it up. There's my ideas for a full dwarven party, but we're not anywhere close to that currently. And a lot of the kind of high-end current meta champions aren't necessarily dwarves. So one day, Dwarven Glory will be a thing, and I will happily buy this feat, and I will go out and rock a full dwarf party and kick some butt. So keep in mind, you're going to have to make some subjective decisions. Generally, most of the time, though, if you're looking at, I've unlocked all of these things, what do I want to put together for my party? You want to go with, you want to find their main ability. So in this case, it's Bruenor in his rally is his main ability. And you want to give it the biggest buff you can, because this is all about numbers. So here's a 40% one. Like I said, 20 would have been the green if there was there. So if you have the 80% available, you just go with the highest number you can. And then for your second slot, you go with the second highest bonus that you're going to get. Now, he does have a damage all champions 25%. That seems nice, but this is all multiplicative. These are all multipliers. So we would just want to go rally. And we would want to go the 80 and the 40. Because these are all stacking separately. This is not adding together to be 120%. This is going to be a 40% multiplier, and this is an 80% multiplier, and they each go together. We see this most often noted when we're looking at, say, Krull. Because the one thing we tell everybody with Krull is Krull, for whatever reason, has the deepest pool of feats, folks. So look at this. He starts off with 3, which for a support gold champion, he doesn't even hit the gold in the first 3. He's an outlier. He's one of those exceptions. He gets an all champs damage, and then he gets 2 ability focuses for 2 different abilities. And then he gets, look at all these rare ones. Look at this. All champs damage, gold, pilfer, which is gold, pain, Virulent Strain, and then he gets a 50% damage all champions, and then he gets another 40% Master's Call for one of his abilities. He has so many feats, and yet the only two that matter are these two. Womp womp. Virulent Strain, because this is kind of the big thing that makes his plagues create lots of new instances. And by doing 100% and then a 50%, you take what is normally a 15% ability, 15% chance to trigger, and it goes all the way up to 30%, which is super nice. And that's kind of how you want. Here, let me throw some levels into Crawl here. So if I were to put, let's just do this, right? If this is kind of might be where you start. Some people think, well, I'm going to go 10% damage, and I'm going to go 20% pain, and sure, that works. That works. But if we look at his Virulent Strain, it's a 10% chance to transfer base, so you're never really seeing multiple stacks. So they do give you this one automatically, and that's kind of where you would want to go, right? You would want to go like Virulent Strain and Pain. But Virulent Strain tends to be the priority, and then when you finally get this one, you want to put them both in, because when we come back over here and we look at Virulent Strain, it's now a 30% chance, so pretty close to a 1 in 3 chance. Now then things change. Once you get lots of plague stacks, while you can't change Krull's specialization, once you've set up like an Azaka farm, you can swap in the Gold Find Feats, Pilfer and Lucky, so Golden Rule and Lucky. Now, whether or not that actually applies or not is a source of much conversation in the community. But that is part of the whole you can change feats at any time. And they are supposed to activate when you swap them. So if you see them not activating, submit a bug ticket. Submit a bug ticket. But overall, that's kind of what feats are, the different kinds, and how you prioritize them. All the champions, like I said, in general, you're going to see support ones increase damage all champions, healing increase the effect of whatever their just general healing is, 15 and 30%. The DPSs are just straight DPS bonuses, and that only applies if you're using them as a DPS. If you're using them as a support for some reason, you're going to want to swap to a different ability, right? Or swap to a different feat. The tanking, you'll see health and overwhelm bonuses, and then gold just generally increase all gold found. Otherwise, you're going to see lots of ability-specific stuff, and the names are going to be different. The names of those feats are always going to be different. But what you will see be the same is the bonus. It's either going to be a 20%, a 40%, or an 80%. And the larger the number, the better. Just make sure that what you're putting in matters in terms of the ability that you're buffing, right? Like, you don't want to buff, like we said earlier, we don't want to buff Dwarven Glory for Brunor, because that's not really a thing if you have no dwarfs in your party. Instead, you want to go Rally, right? So if we look under Ariza here, she has very specific things, Flaming Wings, she's got Bardic Connection. She even has Attack and Additional Target, right? This is another potential thing for champions that have multi-attacks. I forgot this. For champions that have multi-attacks, you can at times get a feat that lets you attack an additional target. Something on Ariza. It's also something on Hitch, who's an evergreen that you'll get automatically. And you want to keep in mind that you can increase the base attack. Sometimes that's something you want to do. And the one thing I totally forgot, folks, I'm going to have to add this back to the guide. You can buy feats from your patron shop as well. There are going to be, each patron is going to have a similar setup. You're always going to have chests, and then there's going to be some cash purchase stuff. And then these are the resetting each week things you can buy up here. But then these are one-time purchases at the bottom that are wrapped in the gold. So you're going to have a feat or two available here. Here we get, this one's Athlete for Brunor. This is Blessed for Keelix. So this is the healing. And then 80% Centipede Net for Spurt, right? You're going to have multiple feats you can buy from each patron. There we go. There's 3 from each. So this is another way you can get feats. These are unlocked specifically for them. Sometimes they are generic, like this is just the Lucky plus 40 for Paulton. Sometimes the feat is going to qualify you for that patron, which is this Keen Mind Imp feat for Gromma. This lets you use Gromma and Strahd. That's a big deal getting to. So keep in mind that you want to look at what, when the patron shop and determining when you're buying the patron version, look at what it does for you and is that useful, not just I want to buy all the feats. So super useful one here, +1 int just to get Gromma into your Strahd formations. After that, look at that full moon, 80% for Tyrell's Moonbeam. That's fantastic. I use Moonbeam a lot. I like it. So keep in mind, ooh, hey, there's a couple over here. Keep in mind that you're going to also have some feats that are available to be purchased from the patron store. And when it'll show up in your list, if it shows up in the list, it should have a little patron symbol next to it to tell you where to buy it. That's going to be it for feats. So in terms of like, well, what's the best feat to know for X champion? Well, again, hopefully now you get the idea that the answer to that question is just look through them, find the largest numbers, and see are those abilities that are important to those champions. You should hopefully by now know which be able to open up a champion UI, look at their abilities, and determine which are the major core abilities, and then go see if there's a feat that's going to buff that for you. And then keep in mind that it's going to change based on the situation. There are times when I want more health on my champions. Like say if I'm having survivability issues in Asoriel's Resolve, I might want more health feats, right? Because not only is that going to give that tank more health, but then that tank is going to share that health to the rest of the party and thus make the party more durable by having more health. A lot of times if I'm having survivability issues, I'm not throwing in overwhelm feats. I'm throwing in both of the health feats so that it's sharing all of that health to my entire party. And then I can balance from there and swap something out. Maybe I swap the small health feat, the 15% out for a 40% ability bonus, right? Like, keep in mind you're going to want to swap on the fly for that. When you hit a wall and you're trying to kind of eke out every last bit of progress you can, that's how you do it. So yeah, we're going to come back in just a couple minutes. We're going to take a short musical break. This is going to be Prince of the Abyss, which is the most recent song from Bardic Inspiration. And then I will dive into the questions. So if you've been asking questions, they're all right here. I see them. And we will cover those, and then we'll tackle anything that's feat specific first. So if I forgot something, let me know. And we'll dive into that. And then we'll go into anything that's just generic Q&A for the rest of the show. All right, be back in a moment.
Hush, little children, and lay down your head while we tell you a story of unending dread about a creature of fire, a creature at war, a prince among demons, sinister to the core. Listen close to my words now as you snuggle in tight of this two-headed monster who devours the night. Amul longs to break free, inflicting horror and pain, and Hetherana seeks nothing but destruction to reign. When their gazes turn upon you, it brings madness. There is nothing that can save you from their malice. Demogorgon with their baleful gaze will devour the world at the end of days. Demogorgon, the sibilant beast, our multiverse shall be their feast. Demogorgon, Prince of the Abyss. Demogorgon, deep within the pit. Discarded, forgotten, and left for dead, the imprisoned one grew as their evil spread. When the night comes upon you at the end of the day, keep your eyes shut, don't you dare disobey. When their gazes turn
So good. Oh, that one came out so good. It's supposed to be like a heavy metal lullaby. Obviously on acoustic, it doesn't quite get the full heavy metal part, but man, if they ever fully produce that one's gonna be dark. It's gonna be dark. I like it. Okay, I'm gonna dive into the questions. And we'll go from there. I did see something when I was looking through chat. Yeah, I did want to point out the ability stat modifiers. This isn't D&D. This is a D&D themed game. So ability stat modifiers. There are some things they're going to do and some things they're not. Increasing Constitution is not going to increase your health currently. However, increasing scores can help you in some variants and some bosses, because sometimes there are stat-based rules that apply in terms of how an effect is going to affect you. So sometimes there's like things are falling from the sky constantly, and based on your dex score, you're going to take damage. And it's, you take the higher your dex score, the less damage you take. Or sometimes there's going to be a boss that will try to stun you or charm you or do some things, and you get a saving throw. All that stuff happens behind the scene, but you could, if you were having issues and there were stat feats available, you could modify your stats to attack those specific problems. Generally, most people just try to overpower them, but the stats are there if you need them to fiddle with. And the current set of stats, like I said, Krull has so many feats. Krull has so many feats. Because the current set of feats are really kind of imbalanced. Krull has so many, and Calliope has like 4. At some point, this is all based on their first initial pass on the feat system, just getting it out and getting it functional and getting it into our hands. At some point, hopefully, they'll go back and do a second pass and kind of give everybody a much deeper pool and give everybody more options. I'm a big fan of just giving everyone a +1 stat feat for every stat, so that it's just there and it's available, because why not? But I don't know if everybody wants to have to deal with collecting all of those. But who knows? Who knows what they'll do in the future? Let's see. Let's go through. Can you get feats from gold chests for champions you don't have yet? Tyranno 30, that's an excellent question. No, you cannot. No, you cannot. So one of the reasons one reason to save up gold chests or to have a decent number available once you've got full epics, when a new champion comes out, is so that you can just grab all their feats real quick. So that's like kind of one of the first things I do on Fridays after an event starts. I'll open up a bunch of chests on stream and I'll get all my feats for that new champion, because currently I have all the gold chest feats for all the current champions. So once a new champion comes out, all that's left in that pool of feats is whatever the new one is. So you can't get feats for a champion you have not unlocked yet. This is somewhat related. How many auto clickers are you supposed to buy before investing into golden chests? For whatever reason you're buying golden chests, like you're starting to get more feats, or even before, or you're starting to hunt for feats and epics, or even just buying feats. Ultimately, it comes down to like what's a viable amount. Like how deep into the familiars are you in terms of the gem familiars? If they're starting to get very expensive, like they start to get into the 30, 60, whatever, 100,000 gem range, you're probably better off investing for a while at least into more of those golden chests than the familiars. But if you're really, really needing more of that quality of life, then save up and buy them, because familiars aren't going to give you pushing power. They're just going to improve your quality of life. And the number that you're going to want to target is more based around, how many do you have overall and how functional are your pushes if you're AFK a lot, as opposed to just, and did you buy any with cash? as opposed to just like, am I getting more power out of X or Y? Because you get power out of feats and epics, but you don't get power out of familiars. What's the best strategy to buy feats for gems first, or to get feats from buying gold chests? Again, I think I kind of covered that. It depends, right? Remember, buying gold chests, you can get 25 gold chests for the same 12,500 gems as just buying a feat. However, you have no control over where that feat drops. If it even does drop out of 25 chests, you don't know where it's going to go. Whereas buying specifically with gems lets you put it where you want it, if it's something you need. Now, the thing is the purchasable gem feats may not be what you think are ideal for that champion. And if they're not, then there's no reason to buy them. Just use the default ones and hope you get them out of the gold chest. So do a pass on the champions that you're using. You find yourself using constantly, and see, am I going to get any more power and functionality out of these champions if I buy their 12,500 gems? Or do I just need to hunt through gold chests and hope I get the drop? So Krull could get a purple feat of 200% toxicity. Technically. I'm just going to say, Krull has too many feats already. There are other champions that need feats. But yeah, I mean, technically, yeah. Because again, so far what we're seeing as they go from green to blue to purple is they double in power. Exceptions to every rule. Support all champions goes from 10% to 25%. There's your exception. Some speed champions have speed related feats. Snow Lover TV, that goes under ability feats, right? So yes, Deacon has a confidence in the boss feat, but that is an ability related feat. So again, look at the abilities that your champions have and see what's gonna matter, because speed is not an actual role in the game. There is no tag for speed. That is a community created tag for champions. So again, understand what your abilities do and look and see what feats are available and how they modify them. And related to feats, what does Overwhelm do? Gavain, we covered this last week in Gaarawarr's Guide to Tanking, so if you're not sure how Overwhelm overall affects you and how tanking works in general, you're going to want to go back and watch that VOD. It's available here on this channel as a VOD. I'm not sure if it's up on the YouTube yet. Eventually, everything makes it to the YouTube. Hopefully. But Overwhelm, basically, it is the number of enemies that a tank can tank without starting to take extra damage. In other words, at a certain point, they feel overwhelmed and they start taking more damage, and it's 10% per extra enemy above that. So if you're raising your Overwhelm, you're basically raising the amount of things they can tank without starting to take bonus damage. Generally speaking, I prefer extra health instead of Overwhelm, but sometimes you need a combination of both. It really depends on why you're dying. Are you dying before you even get to your Overwhelm point, in which case you need more health? Does it feel like you're fine with health, but it's just that point where you're just taking a few too many extra hits and that bonus damage is wrecking you? Then try Overwhelm. It just depends. Razorcat, no spotlight for Artemis's 240% damage feat? Okay. Well, here's the thing. It's not just Artemis. But yeah, sure. Let's talk about the bad boys and their real kind of outside the norm feats. I don't know why I pulled somebody out that was going to fill that spot automatically. So this is super unusual. Archon and Artemis have some interesting feats with trade-offs. These were purchase feats. So Artemis's is part shade. Increase Artemis's damage by 240%, but only if they've not received any healing or shielding effects in the last 10 seconds. So this means you have to use, if you were going to use this, you have to slot it and a formation that doesn't have any healing or shielding champions. So this is just all in. I'm just going to punch things really hard. Because if he ever gets any healing or shielding, it's going to turn off. It's going to turn off. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. But that qualification, I mean, there's a lot of solid buffers out there that either provide heals or shields. So you may not, unless you've got a really deep pool with some solid buffers that do other things, you know, this may not ever activate. So there's a trade-off to that, right? Archon's version. Oh, do I have it? No, I don't. It's down here. Hand of Vecna. This is a nice throwback. And there's even, oh, why am I not in the skin? Bam. This was a combination thing, because this game isn't ever going to do, well, so far they haven't ever done, and they've stayed away from, skins that provide bonuses. So they weren't going to give Archon a Hand of Vecna skin and just make that skin give a bonus. So instead they sold a bundle that was, that gave him this appearance, but then you could also slot the feat, or you can just buy the feat with gems. He deals 240% more damage, but slowly takes damage over time. Slowly. He takes a good chunk of damage. He takes a good chunk of damage, folks. Let's throw it in and you can see. You can see what we're looking at. Watch his health tick down. Look at that. It just keeps going up and he's almost dead. We've got some, nope. And down he goes. So, yeah, his version, yes, 240% damage is nice, but you're definitely going to need some serious healing to keep him alive if you're going to do that. Let's see if Orkira can shake her tail feather and keep him up here. Potentially, nope. Orkira's got some decent heals, but nope. Oh, well, now she just swapped places with him, but that's not supposed to work that way. He dead, folks. So yeah, yes, he can usurp healing. He's already technically here. We can do it like this, and he'll get more. But is that going to keep him alive? Yeah, that might keep him alive. There you go. So you get him to a certain amount of healing, and you'll know, you can tell, because you just look over his head. You can see the amount of damage he's taking. As long as you get the heal number equal to or higher than the damage number, you're going to be fine. So, it's not so much slowly. It's not so much slowly. He takes damage every time. It's just every second. He takes damage every second, and then he dies. And then he dies. So yeah, there are some interesting feats out there. They're coming up with interesting feats. I don't want to say all the time, but they have definitely introduced some interesting feats. And you know, those are one or two of them. What's the most efficient way to unlock the second feat slot? Nooble76, basically, I feel like most people soft cap and unlock their feats for the first time, usually in events. Events are easier to push deep in. So, you know, that's probably going to be your first target. When you get to the point where you have enough power where you're pushing super deep, like 400 plus in an event for the first time, if you haven't done that anywhere else, that's probably a good time to start looking at it. You're probably going to start unlocking some of your second feat slots then. In terms of a campaign, I feel like the Tomb of Annihilation campaign is the easiest one to push deep in. And soft capping is now, I mean, well, it's well over E20 now, but you don't have to go all the way to the soft cap to start unlocking second feat slots. So you're probably going to see it in the E18 to E22 range, but it's going to take you E22-ish, maybe a little more, to get all of them. So the Tomb of Annihilation campaign tends to be the easiest place to push deep because the blessings there tend to fit, and the fact that it's a 10 champion formation tend to favor your ability to just kind of steamroll things and get lots of gold. Azaka farming can help with that. If you haven't done that, there's guides to that. You know, and it's just gonna be one of those things that you're gonna get to eventually. You don't necessarily have to rush. It's just part of your progress that you're gonna unlock as you move along. Let's see. What else do we got? Do Lux Veritatis, with a very good question, do patron chests give gear for champions who only qualify for the patron by virtue of a feat? And if so, is it only when the feats are equipped? Yes and yes. This is a fantastic way. Patron chests, a lot of people are like, well, I've got to go all in and burn all my tokens on all their champions to get their epic gear in an event. No, you don't. No, you don't. There's time gates, and more importantly, there's patron chests. And the patron chests create these buckets of champions because each patron has a different group of champions that qualify for them. And you can start playing with those lists and figuring out who needs what where. And then note, if you get all of the champions for one patron that are just default qualify, if they have some that then qualify via feat, you leave them out at first, and then you can just pop their feat in and qualify for them for that bucket. And then all of those epics that you get out of those that from that specific patron feats are going to go to that person that you just qualified. And you can just pop one in and out at a time as you get further along to qualify them and get them gear that way. So it's another nice feature of patron chests and patrons in general, is that you can qualify or disqualify via feats and pop in and out of those nice epic buckets. Anything else for feats? Are there any feats that do -1 to ability score? No, there's no negatives. Currently, I don't know that. Yeah, so the only negative that I see is, like, there isn't a negative in the sense of a -1. There are negatives in terms of, like, Archon's feat. We just see there's a negative to that feat, right? It kills him. There's also a negative to less of a negative to Artemis's. Just it doesn't qualify if it turns off. But those are the only kind of negative effects we have currently. Although, keep in mind, there are variants where you take a % of your health in damage every second as you're traveling through the adventure. Don't have health feats equipped on those, folks. Take them out. Take them out. You want as little health as possible in those. You just want just enough health to keep your tank alive. Don't overlevel them, and then take out their health feats, because that's a problem. That'll just get you killed quicker. Let's see. Anything else on feats? Should a 50k gem feat with a stat increase that qualifies a champ for a patron be a top priority feat? Only if doing that patron's stuff is your top priority and you really need that champion. Yeah. Only if you really need that champion for that patron to complete their stuff. In general, that's kind of the rule. Again, you don't necessarily need to go out of your way to buy the +1 stat feats to qualify. Like that one I pointed out for patrons with Gromma, that's because Gromma's a big deal. When you qualify. Strahd is really limiting, and getting Gromma in there just opens up a lot of options for you. But really only if you truly need that champion should you truly try to either go all in or pay for those kinds of feat unlocks. What is the feat drop rate, and do they only drop from gold? So yes, they do only drop, just a reminder, they do only drop from regular gold chests, so the ones you see here that just say gold. And it's a 1 in 25 drop rate, but not guaranteed. Not guaranteed at all. In terms of Azaka farming, if you're running an Azaka farm and you already have 40 stacks of Pilfer, can you drop Venomous Touch and swap in Kral's Lucky Feet? Yes. And I've seen that increase gold drop. Not everyone. I guess sometimes it's going to be, there might be platform specific rules. It's not supposed to drop the stacks. Changing his specialization will drop the stacks. But changing the feats should apply instantly because feats are supposed to be hot swappable. So if it's not, submit a ticket. But yes, that's usually what I do if I'm trying to eke out every last bit of gold. How do you change feats if your champ is not on the board to do so? Well, like Briv isn't out here, but I can still I can still pull him up and swap his feats. Now, if you have someone else in, like I have Shandy in, and I want to change feats on one of these other people, I have to swap. You have to at least bring them up to be the focused person in your champ UI. But if it's just somebody that isn't in at all, you can swap these just by going to the champ UI and swapping them out. Like I can just change this to this if I want. That's pretty straightforward. All right. Yeah, if it's just that you just don't have enough gold to have all of them show yet, you just have to wait until they show up. Which is, I mean, you shouldn't be needing to change their feed if they're not showing up yet anyway, so it should be fine. Should be fine. Okay, all general questions are open now. Mach 10 Frog, why did they disable screen minimization on a game that counts on copy-paste all the time? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't run the game at full screen. I know they were trying to fix an issue that some people had with the game not running full screen the way they wanted it to run full screen, and then they tried to change something, and maybe that had a negative side effect. Submit a ticket, though. I always run in a windowed. Mode because I've got like multiple monitors, and I just want to be able to drag the game from one monitor to another, or just, you know, have other things overlaid. So I don't know. I've never run the game. Literally never run the game in full screen mode. So yeah, that's a developer question. You're gonna have to ask them. I think you once said that later on, Companions of the Hall is your primary goal generator, not Jarlaxle. Nope, that's not really how I said that, but I know why you thought that. How many of the companions do you use for that purpose in your formation? Irnak, that's not, no, you use the Companions of the Hall in association with Jarlaxle in Azaka farming, because each of the companions has a gold find. I can't stand that I'm just sitting here on one level. I'm sorry, folks. Okay. Each of the companions has a little bit of a gold find feature, even though they're not gold find champions. So when you set up an Azaka farm specifically, you just want to fill all the rest, as many slots as possible, with champions that can contribute some kind of gold find, so that you're earning as much gold as possible. And, you know, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the Companions of the Hall, putting all of them out there was the big deal. Now you don't necessarily need all of them, but it really just depends on what gold find champions, what champions you have that have gold find available to them. But you still want Jarlaxle out there, because he's a big deal. Famine Dragon, I'm working to split the party, and in slot 1, what's the best choice? Deacon or Alcoria? Alcoria for pushing. And honestly, if you don't have any speed champions yet, just get Alcoria first. She's going to let you do so many things, and then you would get Deacon. You would get Deacon as your second option for after that later. So that you have a speed champion there as well. But yeah, get Alcoria and push real deep. Zertel, is it worth it to pick up Birdsong on a time gate, as they're the only one of the options I don't have, or should I get gear for other useful champions? I would go ahead and pick up Birdsong. Birdsong's a decent support option, and also can be a decent DPS. Obviously, you're not going to get a lot of gear for them, but having them as an option available is great. And your Electrum chests are going to get them up to at least blues across the board. So that's going to, you know, that makes them viable, or what I consider viable for a lot of new player stuff. So yeah, I would go ahead and grab Birdsong. How viable is this game to play as completely free to play? Salty Rain, 100%. 100%. I myself and other members of the community have made alternate accounts on multiple occasions, and done them completely free to play, and had really no problems completing content. In fact, if you go to my guide page, the new player reference, aka a guided tour, that was done on a completely free to play account. So what's going to happen is spending cash gives you a little better quality of life in terms of familiars, and it can also speed up your progress, either because you bought specific champions and thus had them available to you sooner, or bought chests and thus had more power sooner. But all the champions are available and unlockable in game. All the content is unlockable, playable in game without any kind of paywall. So you can do everything. You can do everything. At what point should I bring in my gold farm comp while pushing? Right at the start, or when I hit my click wall? No, at your actual wall, not your click wall. Ragnarok. You want to push as far as you can with your hardest pushing formation. Get to your wall and then farm gold. And that doesn't, and that's usually around Azaka. Or before you unlock Azaka, it would be utilizing Makos in his Dark Luck spec. But that doesn't necessarily mean. I mean, there are ways to fiddle with it and get like lots of gold, find champions in after you spike your bud and then pop a Makos ult. But with Azaka, it's more of a push super deep, find on a boss level, get one enemy, kill all but one enemy, and then swap in your Azaka farm composition and go to town. And you can search up like either there's I've got videos on that on YouTube under Gaarawarr's Guide to Everything. There's like Azaka Make It Rain, I think is one of the titles, which kind of goes over Azaka stuff. And there's guides on the Reddit. To Glitchy, how are you today? Thanks for doing these guides and answering questions. I'm good so far. This is kind of the first thing I do on Saturdays, and then I got to work afterwards. Yeah, it's raining here. It's a Saturday. I don't know. And you're welcome. Been playing for 2 or 3 days, so yeah, definitely new player. I have a question about how works the skill, the bond skill from Ashara for champions like Calliope that are a half elf. Will she be affected by human, dwarf, elf, or both? None of the above. Half elves and half orcs are half breeds, and they have their own bond at a higher level. So Ashara has a set of 3 bonds early on, and then another set of 3 bonds later on. So you're not there yet. Humans applies to anything that says literally human. Dwarf and elf applies to dwarves and elves, but note that elves also include, there are a couple different kinds of elves. So anything that says elf, anything that or high elf, or a ladrin, or drow, those are all elves. Or if it says, do we have wood elves? I don't know. Anything that has elf specifically, but not half elves. Not half anything. Half anything have their own bond later on. So yeah, it specifically has to name. Ashara can't necessarily bond with everyone, but generally speaking, if you're using Ashara, if you're using her as a DPS, you want to go potpourri. You want to do that far right spec, potpourri. If you're using her as support, then that might change. It just depends on who you're supporting. Ayla's a wild elf, so yeah, elf. So anything that has elf, anything as long as it doesn't say half elf. But then keep in mind, Eladrin and Drow are both. So Vlanya and Jarlaxle and Baloth, all of those are still an elf as well. When is Tyrell's Moonbeam good? Whenever you're not using him as a tank. It's better if you can put him next to as few people as possible. I know Tyrell says he's a healer, but like the number of times I've used a Tyrell to heal, like in the number of variants, I probably count on one hand. Generally speaking, you want Tyrell, like if I were using him here, I would have him all the way in the back where Sentry is, because Sentry is only adjacent to 2 people, and the buff off of Moonbeam gets lowered based off the number of people around them. So ideally, you want Tyrell adjacent to no one, or adjacent to 1. It's very rare that you'll be able to put them adjacent to no one. But there's a lot of variants, especially in events and stuff. There are variants where sometimes you may not be able to use your whole party, and having Tyrell not adjacent to anyone gives you the biggest buff. But then there are also event formations that let Tyrell be off on his lonesome in Moonbeam, and it's glorious. But yeah, anytime that you're not using him as a tank, if he's in your formation, you want him in Moonbeam. He's a great buffer in Moonbeam as long as he's not surrounded. Killer Tom, I need a slot 10. Havilar. Ironuk, follow-up that begs the question, what situations would his buff be worthwhile? Oh, Tyrell. Is this, we're still on Tyrell? Yeah, we're still on Tyrell. Yeah, you just kind of got to try him out in Moonbeam and compare him. I feel like as long as he's only got 2 people next to him, he's a great option in Moonbeam. If he's got 3 or more, you probably want to use somebody else. But yeah, I wouldn't. Tyrell as a healer isn't. I know some people figure out some shenanigans, and maybe that's their only option, and they use Tyrell as a healer. Okay, but man, there's so many better healers. Murdoch's Age 2, I have Birdsong, Jim, and Penelope in my time gate. And I have other options in those slots already. I've already got Split the Party and Murd unlocked. Jim has been the highest recommendation out of those. What are your thoughts? Yeah, Jim gets used a lot for getting rid of that last enemy that seems to be invincible on your screen when it's just a regular mob and not a boss, which we've talked about many times, and we'll probably talk about many more times, that's just a function of how the game works. But yeah, I would go Jim, in part because you have 3 champions in the other 2 slots, but only 2 in Jim, and so that'll qualify you for Split the Party too. But also Jim's functional. Jim's got some functionality currently. Big Jake, just got my first 2 patrons. When the event starts, is there a penalty if I reset my perks to get the global perks to use during event runs? No, that's exactly what you want to do. With patrons, because patron influence is a fixed commodity, so there's only as much as there are variants out there, unlike favor. Resetting doesn't cost you anything. So anytime you're not out doing variants for this specific patron, when you're early on and you only have some points in this, if you're not doing stuff for Mert, you want to reset and put all your stuff into global, as best you can, because that's going to apply to all the other patrons or just to generic stuff you're doing. It's only if you're doing that specific patron stuff that you would then want to prioritize local. So you can reset as many times as you want there. A recent new player have a question about how monsters decide which tank to attack. It's fairly random most of the time. So when if there's only one tank, obviously they're attacking them, but the rest of the time, if there's 2 or 3 slots, for the most part, they're just going to RNG it, and when they spawn, they probably have a path assigned, and as long as they're not knocked back, any kind of a knockback is going to change their path, but it's fairly random. That being said, Briv has a taunt feature that can pull things to him. But if you're a new player, you don't have Briv yet. So most of the time, it's just going to be random. Benwin, Point, or Keelik? Keelik. Why is the event easier to deep push in? Both my wife and I first soft capped into Tomb of Annihilation. Events have a lower health scaling, and if I remember correctly, a higher gold scaling. So the idea is that an event is a miniature version of a campaign. This is one of the things I love about this game, is that events happen regularly, and the events basically exist to reinforce campaign strategies. So they start you off at 0, but then they let you progress faster through them, and they basically teach you all the things that you would need to know on how to progress in a campaign. They just do it in a little 12-day micro window, right? So they let you push further. They give you more ability to push further in them faster than normal, because otherwise it would take just an incredible amount of time to go super far in an event, and they don't necessarily want to do that. They want you to give you as easy access to everything as possible. Hey, thank you for the sub, much appreciated. Yeah, the subbing to this channel helps to support streams like this, but also all the other awesome streams that happen on the C&E Games channel. So Mars' Guiding Hand, Bardic Inspiration, Champions of Lore, Champions of Psychology, Developer Insights, Idle Insights, Griddle Champions, also the streams for Crusaders and Bushwhacker. So thank you. Plus you get cool emotes. There's emotes of my face in there, folks. There's emotes of my face in there. Let's see. I noticed there's a sale on the... Ooh, and we've got a hype train going. Hype, hype, hype. I noticed there's a sale on the Sentinel Prime skin pack for Sentry. I only have Jarlax and Jaheira in that slot. Is she a good addition to make that slot more versatile? Yes. I tend to prefer saving my money for your charity benefits, but she looks interesting. Yeah, so I would go over here and click the summer sale, and I would show this pack off. But I bought it already. I may have spent too much money on the Steam summer sale. And I think it's on sale on... it should be on sale on most platforms. Most, if not all. I'm sorry, not all, but I think they tried to coordinate it with all. So yes, there was a Sentry skin pack. This is Sentry. Sentry is a functional take. She'll work great for you, but a lot of what people like her for is her speed. And this is the actual skin. I gotta switch that over. This is the skin you get from the Sentinel Prime pack, which is pretty neat. And ooh, oh yeah, and it gets you this feat of the Guardian of Soulwind 80%. So this is her tanking feat. So this is what you would want. So if I were to put in here, I'm going to want to go, instead of this damage all 25%, I'm going to go Guardian of Soulwind, and health. And now this is super tanky Sentry. This is super tanky Sentry. But generally I'm using her for speed. So we'll just go the damages. Ooh, gift subs. Nice, Kamal. All right. Is a feat active even though the hero is not in the formation? No. Nothing is... is there an exception to this? Kind of. Feats aren't active unless the champion is in the formation. In general, champion. This is why you don't have to upgrade champions that aren't in your formation. There's nothing about champions is active when they're out of a formation. There's a semi-exception, and that's Freely. When you have Freely in for his Adventurous Tale for every zone completed, it boosts the amount of Adventurous Tale. And then even when you go to reset, Adventurous Tale then increases the amount of favor you earn, that your gold find converts into for that run. He does not have to be in the formation when you reset for that to happen. But that is the only exception off the top of my head that I can remember. In terms of champion-specific things, so like a feat or an ability. Do you recommend opening Electrum chests immediately? For a brand new player, absolutely. Absolutely. However, once you have... once all your champions, because Electrums open... Electrums, if we go over here and look... Electrums specifically say... one equipment item for a random unlocked champion. So all champions that you've unlocked ever, it can drop gear for all of them. So once you have all your champions up to at least blue gear, so no whites and no green showing, then you don't need to open your Electrums instantly. Then you can do what I do, and what I do is save them for the next event. So when an event happens, and I unlock those new event champions, then I open up all of my Electrums and I dump out all of those items in item levels into, as much as possible. It prioritizes those champions first, and then it goes back to doing everything random. But that way I get a lot more bang for my buck in terms of those chests, and they go to champions that actually need gear. Like the gear will go to champions that actually need it. So at first, if you've got no gear, white gear, or green gear, then you want to just open your Electrums right away. But once you have all blue or higher, then you can start holding on to them for just when you pick up a new champion. Oh, here we go, Spaldrin. Why does it take too long to kill the last man standing after the boss? There's a couple reasons for this. One of the big ones... Oh, it's this. Hold on. Is that what you're looking for? there are two reasons why one enemy may be left after you clear everything on a boss wave. One of the reasons has to do with just how tanks work, and how tanking works in general, and how the boss levels work. So boss level is going to be 10. Generally speaking, a boss level is 10 trash mobs and the boss. And then the boss has an enrage mechanic. The moment they get to your formation, they start enraging. So the general answer to why this happens can be, if it's just about tanking, is that tanks and some support champions have abilities that give you bonuses to champion damage based off either the number of enemies attacking the tank and or the number of enrage stacks that are active on the screen. So if you are tanking and the boss is building enrage and you've got a lot of enemies on you, and you're not able to kill anything, but then you finally get enough enrage stacks that gets you to the point where you can do enough damage to kill the stuff on screen, you might, if you get unlucky, kill all but one enemy because of a random hit or something, because of the way they're arranged, and leave one thing left. And now because you don't have that ramping damage, you no longer have the damage to kill that enemy. That can happen. That can just happen. It's rare, but it can happen. More commonly, we see this with Krull. Krull has an ability, one of his plagues, his plague ability gives you one plague called Traitor. And this makes enemies traitors to their own kind, but it also makes Krull a traitor to you, because what happens is you build up all these stacks on a boss level. They build up over time, and then what happens with Traitor specifically is then when you hit an enemy with an attack, they take whatever amount of damage you were doing to them, say 1,000. But let's say they have 10 Traitor stacks, and let's say that increases. Traitor spreads damage. Traitor then takes the damage, multiplies it by the bonus from Traitor, and does that damage to everything around that enemy. So if let's say you get 1,000% bonus there, and now suddenly you're doing 1,000,000 damage to everything around you. Sorry, but you only did 1,000 damage to the enemy. Well, it's going to kill everything else on the screen. It's going to leave that one standing, and you're not going to have enough damage to kill that one. Sometimes you can still kill that lone enemy with ultimates, but eventually we'll reach a point where even that doesn't do anything. And then you either have to, the way to get rid of them is to either gem them and turn them into an abyssal chicken, or just go back and restart the level. Just toggle off your auto, click back the level before, and then turn auto progress back on, and then it'll take you to that level again, and you'll do it again, and RNG then might bless you, and you kill everything. Either way, this is kind of the game working as intended, based off these different functions, either Krull's Traitor or ramping bonuses from enemies. You don't ever see it anywhere else, because like on non-boss and on screens, you're going to just see constant streams of enemies. So it's never going to happen that you run out of that stacking damage. And some bosses have an endless stream of enemies, so you never see it there either. But it's only ever on bosses on bosses where there's just 10 fixed enemies and that one boss. There is one other way to get rid of that lone. Well, no, that one restarts. Never mind. I'm not even going to that one because that's a whole weird thing. Hello, new player here. Should I rather try to grind one mission through to as high level possible, or would it be better for me to stop grinding when the quest is done at level 50 and do the next quest? So, when it's a regular adventure, and I'm going to go out and illustrate this. When it's a regular adventure, like one of these, these are these top level adventures. When you're newer, I recommend just going as far as you can with this, getting to your wall, and then don't farm at your wall for more than an hour. Like, honestly, when you're new, probably a half an hour is good. Unless you're going AFK, that's fine. But don't farm at an number. Just push as far as you can, even if that's like level 75 and then bail, right? But pushing in these regular adventures gets you favor without having to then go back and specifically favor farm anywhere. What you want to complete right away when you do start completing them is these lower level options that come down as drop downs. These are variants of this adventure. So these are variations on this adventure. So it's going to have the same general layout and general enemies, but it's going to give you restrictions. The restrictions, generally speaking, prevent you from pushing really far and thus earning lots of favor. So with variants, when you do them, you just want to get to their completion level and then bail. But generally speaking. But with regular adventures, pushing deep can help you earn lots of favor. Now, once you get to the point where you have enough favor, where you've bought all the blessings, and you can soft cap your champions, you don't really have to continue pushing each adventure anymore. It's just early on, getting all that favor helps make every subsequent adventure easier, and then when you go back and do variants, it makes those easier too. And these difficulty ratings on variants are based off the amount of favor you have specifically. It's not about, like, just because this shows is easy doesn't mean this adventure is easy. In fact, Arya Chicken as the first variant is just the most incredible troll from the developers. They're daring you Arya Chicken. And when anyone dares you Arya Chicken, it's not going to be a good time. It's not going to be a good time. This is one of the hardest variants. And the fact that they make it the first variant is, again, massive troll. Because losing slots in a formation is a big deal. Anytime you lose a single champion, even just one, it makes this so much harder. And the fact that you lose 4, even if this shows green for you when you're a new player, it might not be doable. But you have a better chance at doing it when it shows as green than if it were red or something else. So keep that in mind. Is there any advantage to letting the game run actively versus logging out and earning offline rewards when you're not actively playing? Everything moves faster when the game is open. Offline progress and background progress are based off simulations that look at base value at completing it 1 area per minute. Whereas, as you can see, me doing this actively, I just completed that in like 3 seconds. Right? So you can do everything faster when you're online. But offline progress exists for, players who are on mobile, who can't just keep the game open on their phone all the time, or on console if you want to set stuff up, fiddle with it, and then go play something else, and then come back to it later. Like these are the things they made available to those players to help improve their experience overall, which it did. But it still doesn't necessarily meet the same experience as active play. For people who don't want gaps in their collection, my people! Do you go to Champ Silver, Electrum, and then Gold, or Electrum, Champ Silver, Champ Gold? Originally I was like, Silver, Electrum, and then Gold. But now I'm in the other camp. Now I'm firmly into Electrum and then Champ specific chests. Specifically because Electrums really only target, their only priority is truly empty slots. So you may as well open at least 6 Electrum chests per champ to at least fill in all those whites. But while you're at it, why not just keep going? You'll see probably this coming Friday when I stream on GG2E and I open up all my Electrum chests for Sergeant Knox, who's our next champion. I may fill out his entire item pool up through blues with all of the Electrums I have, because I've got 70 something, 62. It'll be 70 something by the time we get there. Yeah, I target the Electrums first because that's going to give me the best chance to get those items onto the new champion. And I just burn through all of them. And then I've got the silvers in reserve, because then the silvers are going to add, like the champ named silvers, are going to specifically add item levels, which I want. They're also, hopefully, if there were any gaps, they're going to have a chance to fill in those gaps for the whites and the greens and the blues. And then the golds are the last ditch scenario that are going to fill in any gaps for greens, blues, and then hopefully get me a lot of purples. And a quick follow-up that I just saw come in. How do you get Electrum chests? From watching streams like this, right? So that the code that I've got, where is it? All the way down there. A feat feature. For those of you who didn't put that together, it's a feat feature. That is the code. You put that code into the game by going over here. You open up the shop and then unlock a locked chest. And you put it into the cryptex here. You can copy paste it or type it in. If those options are available to you, and then unlock and you get Electrums. And if you hop in the Discord, this is another thing, definitely join the Discord. There is a #combinations channel where people are very good and diligent about making sure that every potential combination for every show that's a partner with Twitch or a partner with CNE or an actual CNE show, all those codes get put in there. So you get lots of them. You get a lot of them. Specifically, the 62 I have there are just since the last event happened, so 2.5 weeks. So 20 plus Electrum chests a week is a lot of free stuff. Where do I find my familiars? Right down here. Right down here. This little hand. This little hand will show up once you have completed level 65 for the first time. So once you get to 66 once, then the hand will always be there. If you purchase a familiar somehow before that, you just want to press F and then click on the spot you want to place them on the field. But otherwise, you click here and it shows you all that you've unlocked, and any that are left to buy, it'll show here. Anything that's been retired isn't going to show up at all. So there's still some I could still purchase. I just haven't yet, and I'm missing a lot from earlier years. I got Ishii in my free time gate. I had the other two. I noticed you never suggested her when people asked yesterday. So is she met? Ishii's primarily a DPS champion, and you already have Jarlaxle as a DPS champion in that slot. And I mean, she's okay, but yeah. She makes an okay DPS champion with Gold Find attached. Jarlaxle is a better DPS / Gold Find champion, in my opinion. So I tend to not recommend Ishii when there's options. Because generally you don't want like super pigeonholed DPS champs. I tend to prioritize some kind of support or tanking champ over a DPS choice, unless it's the best DPS choice. I've just unlocked Bailout as part of the time gate, but I'm confused about how the generous gen upgrade works. It's supposed to resurrect champs when they die, but it doesn't seem to be working for me. It'll only happen, it's on a cooldown. It's got like either a 30-second or a 60-second cooldown. It's going to happen right away, and then it gives them like a 30-second invulnerability, but then they'll die again. So I think it's 60 seconds. I think it happens every 60 seconds with a 30-second invulnerability. Let's just go find out. Where is it? There it is. Immune to all damage for 20 seconds. But yeah, it's a 60-second cooldown. So if they're getting attacked multiple times, if they're dying multiple times in that within 60 seconds, which here's how this works. If you get to the point where someone's going to kill your tank, he's gonna bring them back to alive and make them immune to damage for 20 seconds. If you can't clear off that stuff in the next 20 seconds, you're dead. You're not gonna make it because of the way damage ramps. You're not gonna make it to the next time he can bring this up. So it's happening. You're just maybe not seeing it happen because of the way enemies can kind of contaminate the visual space of a tank, which we've all complained about for 3.5 years. So if you can't clear that off in that 20-second window, the tank's just going to die again. They're just going to die again. It basically gives you a short reprieve. Denok, after about 10 months of playing, just unlocked the last champion I was missing from the full collection. Nice! I'm not sure what to use time gates for in the future. Understandable. Was thinking I just using to level up whatever champion had the lowest item level at the time. Is there better use for someone who likes having a well-rounded champion pool? So, in my opinion, once you have gone full Pokemon and caught them all, and you have all the champions in the game. Currently, there's 82. There'll be 83 on Wednesday. The next goal is full epic. The next goal is full epic. And because you can choose with a manual time gate, because you can choose which champions you're picking, target the ones you're using the most and try to just get them to full epic. After you've then got all champions to full epic, which is, for the record, where I am now. If we go and look. Full epic. Look at all the purple. Look at all the purple. Once you're at full epic, then your decision is, okay, where do I want to put my item levels? Like, then it's like when I get a natural time gate weekend, like yesterday, I tend to choose the champion with the lowest item levels just to give them a boost up. And then manual time gates, once at full epic, manual time gates I don't run. That's why I have, if we go over here, that's why I have 162 time gate pieces. And I'll bank those manual time gates for the next champion that comes out. If I don't get them full epic, then I can run a bunch of time gates and try to get their stuff. If that only works if I only need like 1 or 2 items though. Otherwise, repeating a champion ramps their goal up so high it makes it hard to complete. So in those cases, you wait and then you build up like a 3 champion rotation, and doing a 3 champion rotation makes it so that their goal stays manageable. But yeah, so target full epic next. And if you get a natural time gate that offers you 3 champions that are already full epic, then look at kind of boosting, creating well-rounded item levels. Donation, what's your best beginner's tips? And then in parentheses, when to open all the chest codes. All the code chests. Oh, I kind of gave that. Like right away. Electrum chests right away. Until you're full blue. And then you can hold them for when you get the new event champions. Or when a new evergreen comes out. But in general, the best beginner's tips in this game are join the Discord. There's a new player channel where people are there to help. There's a formations channel. There's the combinations channel. Also, hit up the subreddit. There's lots of information there. Not just my guides, but there's lots of... you can ask questions, and lots of people will help. But there's also lots of other guides that are out there that can help too, from different points of view. I'm new. Can you explain how the 3 bottom left save formations work? Sure. So this is the save formation interface down here. If you want to save a formation, you click the little floppy disk symbol, which is what that is. Each campaign and each patron and each event champion has 50 potential formation saves that you can have for them. So you come in, you've built out your formation like I have here. It's going to give you, it shows you the formation you built here. You can type in a name for it. And you can assign it to one of the hotkeys. 1 is Q, 2 is W, 3 is E, just for those of you who want to know. And then you hit save. Or you don't have to do a hotkey. I have a bunch that are out there. You can also modify what you have existing. Or just delete them completely if you don't want to save them anymore. But then when you're down here, you can then manually hit 1, 2, or 3 based off what you've saved. And load them in. Now it's going to show you here in color. It'll show you anything that's been leveled up already. In black and white, it's going to show you champions that haven't been leveled up, but that it will attempt to, because they're not leveled up, it can't load them in, but it will save that slot for them. So as you go by them, it will throw them in. And then if you want to load something that isn't in there, you hit this folder and it takes you to all of your formations, and then you can choose to load ones that weren't even in your hotkey, weren't even in your top 3. And you can edit the names, etc. Formations will save familiar placements. Wherever you put your familiars, it's going to save that. That's this little familiar 16 to 37, 8 to 37. It'll tell you, it'll save them and load them in appropriately. If you had chosen your specialization before you made your save, it will also it will also save your specialization choice, which is super helpful. So always save your formation at the end of your run because it should have all of your specializations chose, just in case. Just in case. We're running out of time, so let's see. Probably don't put any more questions in there. Let me see if I can speed round through this. Hold on one second. All right. McNeil DJ, I haven't maxed out my Modrons yet, and I haven't got all the perks gear for the Zerial Patron. I have a level 10 Modron, a level 9 Modron, and a level 7 Modron in order, modest, strong, and speed. Should focus on leveling up a particular Modron for Zero variants, or just farm to buy feats? Your primary focus for leveling Modrons should be the modest core, so the first one that you ever get. It is going to give you the most buffs, generally speaking, in the current meta. To help you push the furthest. In fact, a fully maxed out Modron, so level 15 with fully epic flow, will get you 100 levels more than if you had no Modron at all. The strong core is kind of your last. As long as it's automating, it's good. Don't worry about that. Your second priority is the speed core, and that's only for when you're doing speed runs. Wasn't there something with Melf speed buff staying when switching parties? It shouldn't be. If there is, that's a bug. Submit a ticket. If Nova isn't in your party, does she still collect body parts? No. Which imp is which with Gaarawarr? They're in order. The first one is Dembo. Yeah, Mott and Dembo. So Mott is always gonna be out, and then Dembo is the first one that comes out. Is this red one, and then as you switch, it will change them through. And I don't. Alla is the second and Bosch is the third, and you can rotate through. They have different colors, but really, usually you're primarily you want Dembo out if you're trying to speed, but the others are out if you're trying to do other things. How do you progress through areas like this so fast? I'm killing everything with familiars because I'm leveling up my click damage down here. And then I have lots of speed champions out. So speed champions are champions that have effects that speed up your progress. So like killing one thing and moving to the next level, that's a combination of Gaarawarr and Human, and Melf, potentially, all three of them together. But then like Sentry reduces the number of things I have to kill on any given level. Is there a good rule of thumb for strategy for opening bounty contracts and blacksmithing contracts? Bounty contracts you want to save for events. We have an event coming up. The reason you save bounty contracts is because they drop stuff based off time, and they primarily that's gold, but during an event that means event tokens, and you can't get event tokens any other way other than just waiting because they're a time drop. You can't speed it up. Multiple parties doesn't help. The speed potions doesn't help. The only other way you get event tokens is by bounty contracts. So save your bounty contracts for events. Blacksmithing contracts you can use whenever you kind of want. Just don't put them on your core or evergreen champions, because blacksmithing contracts are going to raise their item levels, and those champions are going to get lots of item levels just from opening up all the regular silver and gold chests, as well as still being a target for electrum chests. So you don't need to worry about them too much. Generally speaking, you want to put your blacksmithing contracts on the champs you're using, just target event and time gate champions. Working on Split the Party 2, I got some time gates. I need a third bench slot in 5, 7, and 11. Oh. So you start out with Calliope. You're going to want, like, the priorities here are Briv and Keelek for 5. For 7, you're getting Freely in the next event. So you start out with Minsk. Freely's coming up in the next event. Caddy Bree is another great support, but Freely kind of outshines her. So if you want functionality, you could grab Jim. If you want a DPS, I like Frida out of that slot. And 11, you have Jamila base, you want Avrin, and you can unlock Dragonbait just by pushing through to the end of Tomb of Annihilation. So if you've already got Split the Party 1 done, you should be able to just go unlock Dragonbait. So you already have Jamila, you should unlock Dragonbait as an evergreen out of Tomb of Annihilation, and you should pick up Avrin. Just unlock my second core. My first is level 7. Should I continue to level my original? Yes. And let my new core progress to level 3 offline? Yeah. Because the second one, if you unlock the second via Split the Party 2, you're talking about the fast core. You just, yeah, you want to prioritize your deep push with your modest core and keep leveling that, and then just you can let the fast core slowly level to 3 in the background. You could put it in honestly, you could put it in the foreground and try to level it manually to 3. Just know that when you're pushing, just remember to swap. Actually, that's probably what you should do. Put your fast core in your main party so it gets levels, but just remember that when you get to your wall, when you're pushing, swap into your modest core so you can push further and finish. That will get the fast core to level 3. Then once it's at level 3, just automate it in the background. When Briv skips a boss level, do I miss out on the gems and chest rewards? No. Anything that comes out of the bag, the boss bag that the boss drops, gets picked up automatically even when Briv jumps a boss level. And that includes like Nova's stuff. Any tips for variants where you take constant damage and need to get above level 500? Yes. I kind of talked about that earlier. Reduce the amount of health that you have in your party. So generally speaking, you only want 1 tank if possible. And you only level them up, only upgrade them enough so that they're surviving. So early on, don't upgrade them much at all. But once things start running into them, only upgrade them enough so that they're surviving while upgrading everyone else. And make sure you have Calliope in your party. Calliope is going to put out her shields, put her within 2 spaces of everyone, and put her on her lore spec. So she's going to pump out her shields every 10 seconds, and that damage eats through the shields first. So if you keep your overall health low, the shields should stay high enough to have all the damage only ever come out of the shields. Is there any point in rushing patrons, and is there any difference which one I'll take first? Usually, don't rush them. Usually Mert's going to unlock first on his own. And then Vajra's second, and then Strahd's third, and then Zariel's fourth. But there's no need to rush. You need power to do patron stuff. And rushing just means you're not going to have it. And you also need a deep bench, and you're not going to have either of those if you rush. Aren't Electrums better open later if the champ's already at all blue? No, because Electrums only give you gear up till blue. So if they're all blue, they're just giving dupes. It doesn't matter. For the event coming up, is there any reason to push past the level 50 that drops the chest on the free plays? If you've already done all the variants and you already have all the favor you want, then no. Then you just push to 50 and get your chest. I spent my early manual time gates on speed. Is Krull still the first power champ I should pick up? You can go Krull or you could go Avrin. I still like Krull because he gives you both power and gold. Is it normal to get repeat characters quite early on in random time gates? Yes. I know Avrin is one of those champions that a person as someone should get during a time gate if he appears. Is there a number 2? Krull and Deacon and Shandy. But then it depends. Or Kira, there's a number. Ayla. Any benefit on owning all champions? Just to collect them all. Plus, for patrons, it gives you a wider bench. And that's 60 questions, and we're done, and we're going to get out of here because we're out of time. Thanks for hanging out. We're going to go out. The next champion coming to Idle Champions on this coming Wednesday at noon Pacific is Sergeant Knox from Neverwinter. So we're going to listen to Neverwinter Dreams from Bardic Inspiration. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.
Soaked by winter rains, I stumbled to the gate, seeking out my fortune. I was running from my fate, walking at the sunset, searching for the love I haven't met. The days they fade away, but my heart yearns to stay. It never win a night, never winter dreams, always shining bright. stood there before me, and I wandered down the street among a bed of flowers in the garden that he keeps. He smiled as I walked up. My heart had skipped a beat, like a moth to a flame. I was drawn to the heat of Neverwinter Night. Neverwinter dreams. I was shining light through the darkest dreams. In a city skinhead, his calluses are kind. Going home together, futures intertwined. Here's what the solo is, I think. Neverwinter Night.